I think the key thing is allowing people to see recognisable objects within the bench itself, and then drawing that connection between how their everyday lives are having an impact on the environment. So it could be realising that you've not recycled your plastic water bottle and that appearing in the bench. Seeing that physical connection will hopefully instill a change of behaviour at least.
Earlier this year, the LFA launched the second edition of Pews and Perches, a design competition in collaboration with the Royal Docks team. The competition looked to highlight the positive and transformative impact of small-scale interventions in the public realm, which can provide locals, visitors and Londoners alike with a unique new space to sit, rest and play. We caught up with each of the winning designers to find out the story behind the benches. Here, Betty and Quincy tell us about their bench, Water, Water Everywhere.
Hi, we're Betty and Quincy, and our bench is called the Water, Water Everywhere bench. We've made this bench in collaboration with Helen Caulfield of the Redundant Architects Recreation Association and the artists Sophie Percival and Priscilla Wong.
The concept of our bench was inspired by the water of the Royal Docks in the Thames and the found objects that wash up along the shoreline. We're inspired by trying to recreate the water quality, but also act as a commentary for how local people can preserve and maintain the natural environment.
So we wanted to use a material that we could express the different strata that you'd find on the riverbed. So we leant towards the use of jesmonite, and we also wanted to use a material that had transparent properties that you could sort of see things through and have that more clear water-like quality. So our design uses layers of pigmented jesmonite with crushed found objects in them to act as the seabed, and then has resin pieces with items that we found suspended in the resin along the edges of the bench, so they're kind of accents that showcase the objects in a clear way, and they kind of are like pools of water on the sides of the bench. The materials that we selected, mostly the found object, that's really the thing that we feel speaks to more of the people side, because the resin and the jesmonite speaks to the watery qualities of the site, but then having these objects within it showcases how we as people have an impact on our environment. And by having objects that are from the area, we think that when people walk by, they will, kind of go, oh look, like that's that, and like here's something else. And having that sort of familiarity of things that we know and maybe are in our homes, but then have ended up in the water.
When we've been doing our research, we found that historical items from the shipping industry have washed up on the shoreline, but we're also interested in plastics and non-degradable materials that can capture the environmental impact that people are having on the water. I think the key thing is allowing people to see recognisable objects within the bench itself, and then drawing that connection between how their everyday lives are having a negative impact on the environment. So it could be realising that you've not recycled your plastic water bottle and that appearing in the bench. Seeing that physical connection will hopefully instill a change of behaviour at least.
We've kind of seen the construction into two elements. There is the sort of larger bench that's made from the cast jesmonite, and then we also have the resin insert. The resin came first of the objects, and then we cast those into the layers of jesmonite. So with the resin, we've worked with the artist Sophie Percival, has worked extensively with resin, and we've worked together on casting the pieces that we found to showcase them in the resin. We've been really privileged to work with her and to have resin casting workshops where we created these resin inserts that you see in the benches today.
And when it came time to work with the jesmonite, we worked with two collaborators, the first being Helen Caulfield of the Redundant Architects Recreation Association, or RARA, and the second, in a more advisory role, was Priscilla Wong, who is a multidisciplinary artist. We were really privileged and lucky to work with the two of them, and without their expertise, we don't think the design would have come together as well as it has done. So going back to Helen from RARA. So RARA is a creative collective and cooperative workspace based up in Clapton. The makers and artists that work there do lots of work in situ projects in the public realm and creating installations of art and architecture and participatory research. So when we reached out to them, we had a good feeling about it and we thought it was going to be a really good collaboration. Working with Helen and some of the other makers at Rara has been a really great experience. They have so much expertise and they've really helped our bench to be what it is today and to look so beautiful. Working with Priscilla Wong as well was a really great experience. As a multidisciplinary designer, she has done lots of installations in the public realm as well, so her expertise is invaluable, and she gave us lots of advice about how to deliver the bench on a tight budget, but also to make it look as exceptional as possible. So working with both Helen and Priscilla and their considerable jesmonite expertise, we were able to do all the correct calculations for the different strata that you see in the bench today to get the layered effect. And we also did lots of exciting tests with earth pigments, which we chose because of their natural quality and how they would relate to the earthiness of a riverbed and like the wateriness of the river surface, and they gave quite a beautiful quality in the coloration of the bench.
Although Betty and I have never worked together on a professional project, this is our first experience working on a piece of public realm as well. I think we have both a similar design methodology and way of approaching the project, but also working with the wider design team. And I think that collaboration and the way that we've picked the people that we're working with is something that we were keen to see throughout the design process.
It's been really fulfilling actually, because usually when you work on a project, obviously in practice, you might not even be in the practice long enough to see the project like build out and get all the way to that final stage. So to work on something with a smaller time scale, which we've been able to oversee it all the way from the inception and the birth of the design idea all the way to construction and then handing over and closing out to the Royal Docks team. It's been an invaluable experience that I feel like we're both really lucky to have this and, you know, have more of an understanding of how delivery works and like how to work closely with clients and also with the local community and doing community engagement activities and things. It's been a great experience.
But I also think it's the immediacy. I think it was something that I wasn't expecting, but I've actually come to quite enjoy. I think seeing the project. I remember when we were doing the competition entry, it was quite manic and rushed and we were trying to pull it together at the last minute. But now to see it actually on site and people interacting with it, I think it's been a steep learning curve, but one that I would definitely do again.
To see pictures of the installations or to find out more information, head to lfa.london/perches.